So Apartments.com is the #1 independent listing site for multifamily rentals in the United States, which is a fancy way of saying that people use us to find a place to call home. Before we implemented release automation, our releases, well, they weren't automated. It was a very manual process. It required tech ops to do the code release from dev to QA to production based upon a set of manual steps provided by the application developers on how to release that application. And due to human error sometimes, and sometimes, well, due to the lack of automation, it could take multiple attempts to get something into QA, or was challenging to manually repeat that process efficiently and accurately. Prior to implementing the Serena Service Manager solution, we had really an ad hoc method of incident reporting. We were using the Team Track product primarily for defect tracking in our software, and then we were trying to take that same implementation of Team Track and figure out how to do incident and problem management in a defect tracking workflow. So it didn't work out very, very well. We got it done. It wasn't that, the business came crashing down, but it certainly made for a lot of challenge for the tech folks that had to do work based on that. For the release automation, our main criteria was not requiring a specific skill set that we didn't already have. A lot of the solutions we looked for would require extra skill or extra training for the developers to learn how to use proprietary scripting, potentially, or any kind of packaging. We wanted something that was going to be accessible to any practitioner regardless of their role. That, hey, if testers had to be able to build or deploy, they should be able to do that. It should be a decision based upon what's the right use of the resource, not their skill. We didn't want to be locked into a specific skill set. And we needed something that worked pretty out of the box. We didn't want to have to do a lot of customization because our core competency is not writing release software, right? That's what you guys are for. We wanted something that would get out of the way, that would be the lightest touch possible to let us implement it as quickly as possible. For release automation, our implementation, it began with a POC that we did pre-sales with Serena. We had a field engineer came out, spent a couple days with us, and we went through it. We picked one of our applications. I don't want to say sample application. It was a real application. It was our mobile website, and said, let's build the automation of this. How would we do that? And it was very positive because we were able to do it in a couple days, and my team knew nothing about this tool. We were seeing it for the first time, and in 2 days, we were able to build the majority of the automation that would need to be done. And that's really what sold us on the ease that we would have. When it came time to actually implement it in production, we again worked with Serena, came out and we picked another application and said, we're going to go through this one. We're going to build this automation together with the expert, but then learn from that to be able to continue to automate applications as we go. And it's very much a work in progress. You don't sit and say, I'm going to take every single application in my stack and I'm going to spend 6 months doing nothing but automating them. You have to chip away. It has to be iterative, and that's how we've been approaching it. The support has been phenomenal. That's all I could say, and work with a lot of different vendors and a lot of different support organizations, from varying on the continuum from completely useless to pretty good. And I would say our experience with Serena support has been, the quality of support has been great. The way that the support engineers take ownership of an issue and just continue to hammer at it with you until it's done is something that's very refreshing, and it's helped us a lot. In the internet space, velocity is everything. We have to be able to rapidly change to the landscape of the search engines, to our customers' requirements, to our competitors' footprint, and to just the changing nature of the internet itself. So being able to to reduce our time to market is huge. What we're able to do with with release automation is we're able to reduce, for the applications that we have implemented it for, we can reduce environmental problems with code migration. We've marked that as being about a 70% reduction. We went from what used to be potentially a 3-day process to get code just into FQA to now it's done in a matter of minutes. So it allows us to have a greater velocity and a better use of our resources so we can get things out into production, time to market much faster. One of the classic impacts is you're on a project plan. You have a schedule and you say this is supposed to go into QA. Testers are going to be ready to start on Tuesday. They want to start doing their test cases. We need to have 2 days of testing so we can go through this. So you're planning to say, okay, we're going to go into test on Tuesday. Well, anytime you miss that, it ripples. I don't care if you're Agile, I don't care if you're waterfall, something changes that can impact your schedule by days. That has a massive ripple effect. So number one, we got to the point that you'd have to start sandbagging and say, I'm just going to assume that my release is going to take 3 days. And hey, maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised and we can get ahead of the game. And that's not an efficient way to work. The other major impact is those 3 days, and to be fair, 3 days is an edge case. It didn't take us 3 days every time. It depended on the level, but taking at least a day, a long amount of time, you have a lot of resources that you want them to be doing other things. You want your senior engineers to be thinking about how to optimize performance of your infrastructure, not copying files around and trying to figure out what's different from this server to this server. But our website releases, which are the most visible, the most known, we do those after hours, lower traffic times when it's less impactful. So they tend to be evening releases. And we had a practice of those releases were on site. Everyone had to be in the office. Anybody who might have worked on the application had to be there, because when you have this problem, why isn't it working? We don't have, I need to be able to get you, and you. Come to my desk, let's figure it out, let's hash it out. And what we found is the release automation has enabled us to do those releases more remotely now. Specifically where the service manager product has made my life better is being able to provide the transparency into what's happening with our issues. We have 9 different product teams, and those product teams all are responsible for the support of their applications and their components as well as the new development. And being dispersed like that without having a single point of tracking for incident and problem, there's a lot of things that can all be changing all at once. And when your level 1 support folks are trying to figure out what's going on with an issue with the website or with a customer's tool, you can't keep it all in your head. There was a time when we were doing larger releases at a lower cycle. You could remember, at the minimum, you could say, well, I know we released something last week because everybody's here till 2 in the morning eating pizza, and it was a big thing. But now if you're doing, it can be any given day, we're releasing some type of code somewhere in our environment. It's way too much for a level 1 to just keep it in their head. So being able for us to see exactly where it came in from, what's changed, and that helps us triage the impact and then escalate it appropriately to the practitioners who can solve the problem, but provide the background to the product owner who's doing the resource management to say, okay, this is the business impact, but I know exactly when it happened, what it happened to, and what did we change. Things don't just break. Something always changed.